You have been taking magnesium every single day, and yet nothing in your body has actually changed. Your cortisol is still through the roof, your sleep is broken, and your muscles stay painfully tight. The problem is not that magnesium does not work, because the science proves clearly that it does. The real problem is that almost nobody in the world is actually absorbing it the right way. Research now confirms that the average person absorbs only around 10% of the magnesium they swallow. That means 90% of what you take every morning is quietly going straight down the drain. This is exactly why your stress hormones are not dropping, no matter how consistent you think you are. This is exactly why your insulin resistance is barely moving, even when you feel you are trying. There is a specific biological pathway that scientists have recently confirmed can triple your magnesium absorption dramatically. Almost nobody is talking about this pathway, and almost nobody is using it, which is the problem. Before we get to the solution, you need to understand why this deficiency is so deeply hidden. More than 99% of all the magnesium inside your body lives deep inside your cells. It sits in your bones, your muscles, and your soft tissue, completely invisible to any standard test. Only about 1% of your total magnesium floats in your blood, where doctors actually measure it. So here is what happens when you get a standard magnesium blood test at your doctor's office. Your kidneys are already silently pulling magnesium out of your tissues just to keep that blood level normal. The result is that your blood number always looks perfectly fine, while your actual cells are starving. This is why millions of people with serious deficiency walk out of clinics being told everything looks great. Some researchers argue the reference ranges used in labs are set too low to even catch this. Now, on top of that, the food you eat today has far less magnesium than it used to. Studies estimate the mineral content of vegetables has dropped by around 80 to 90% over the last century. Modern farming methods have stripped the soil so completely that even a healthy diet often falls short. Refined foods make it dramatically worse because white flour retains only about 18% of the original magnesium. Only diets exceeding 3,000 calories per day can reliably provide 300 milligrams from food alone. If you are in any kind of calorie deficit, you are almost certainly going to be deficient. Certain medications also quietly destroy your magnesium levels every single day, without your doctor ever mentioning it. Proton pump inhibitors, diuretics, corticosteroids, and common antibiotics all significantly impair how your body absorbs and retains magnesium. So the problem is systemic, widespread, and deeply embedded in the way most modern people live today. Now let us talk about what actually happens inside your gut when you swallow a magnesium supplement. Magnesium enters through the small intestine using two completely separate pathways that work in very different ways. The first pathway is active, and it uses two special channel proteins known as TRPM6 and 7. The second pathway is passive, and it activates when magnesium simply drifts across the concentration gradient between cells. The passive pathway takes over completely when you swallow a large dose all at one single time. This means your active transporters get completely saturated and stop working efficiently long before the magnesium runs out. Taking two separate doses of 200 milligrams each will always absorb far better than one single dose. Most people take all their magnesium at night in one go, and then wonder why it is not working. Splitting your dose is one of the simplest and most overlooked changes that will immediately improve your results. But there is another layer to this problem that almost no one talks about when discussing absorption. Those same TRPM channels are not selective for magnesium alone, which most people do not realize at all. They are what scientists call divalent, meaning they also pull in calcium, zinc, cobalt, and other competing minerals. When you take magnesium alongside a calcium supplement or even a glass of milk, calcium wins at the gate. Calcium physically crowds out the magnesium and gets absorbed first, leaving your cells without what they actually needed. You need to separate magnesium from calcium by at least 1 to 2 hours for better results. There is also a compound called phytate found in grains, legumes, seeds, and nuts that causes major problems. Phytate can reduce your magnesium absorption by up to 60%, depending on exactly how much you consume. When you eat a plant-heavy meal with nuts or seeds, a huge portion of the magnesium gets locked away. Soaking and sprouting your seeds and grains can break down phytate and recover a meaningful portion of that mineral. Now here is the part that completely changes everything once you truly understand what it means for you. Your colon holds a secret absorption pathway that researchers have only recently started to fully understand and document. Under normal conditions, your colon handles only about 10% of your total magnesium absorption every single day. But when prebiotic fiber fermentation is properly activated inside your gut, that number rises to a full 30%. That is a tripling of colonic magnesium absorption, and it happens simply by feeding the right bacteria the right food. Here is the mechanism, and it is surprisingly elegant once you understand how it actually works inside you. When beneficial gut bacteria ferment prebiotic fiber, they produce compounds called short-chain fatty acids during that process. The most important of these are butyrate and acetate, which then get taken up directly by your colon cells. This process drops the pH inside those colon cells, and that drop directly activates a brand new channel. That channel is called TRPV3, and it opens up specifically in response to the acidic conditions created. So one gate closes, and a completely different and more powerful gate opens in its place inside your colon. The lower pH in the colon also makes magnesium salts more soluble, so there is simply more available to absorb. Two people eating the exact same supplement can end up with completely different magnesium status because of their gut. A poor microbiome, low-fiber diet, chronic stress, or a single course of antibiotics destroys this entire pathway. All of these things suppress butyrate production and silently cut off your colonic magnesium absorption completely. The fix is straightforward, and it costs nothing extraordinary because you likely have access to these foods already. Take your magnesium with or shortly after a meal that contains a meaningful amount of fermentable prebiotic fiber. The best options with the strongest scientific evidence are chicory root, Jerusalem artichoke, garlic, onion, and leeks. Psyllium husk taken as a supplement also works extremely well and is both affordable and widely available everywhere. These foods feed the bacteria that produce butyrate, which then flips the switch on your TRPV3 channel. Now let us address the form of magnesium you are actually choosing, because this matters more than most people think. The supplement market is absolutely flooded with different forms, and most of the marketing wildly overstates the real differences. But there are a couple of genuinely important distinctions that science has actually confirmed in real controlled trials. Magnesium glycinate and bisglycinate are the two forms most people should start with for general repletion and recovery. They are extremely well tolerated by the digestive system, absorb reliably, and rarely cause the loose stool effect. Research specifically points to these forms for reducing anxiety, relaxing chronically tight muscles, and meaningfully improving sleep quality. The glycine attached to the magnesium acts as its own calming neurotransmitter once it is inside your body. A head-to-head study comparing 3 different forms in 46 adults over 2 full months found clear differences. Both magnesium citrate and amino acid chelate significantly outperformed magnesium oxide on every single absorption measure in that study. Citrate produced the highest serum magnesium levels of all 3 forms tested during those 2 months of supplementation. Magnesium oxide, which is also the most common form sitting on pharmacy shelves everywhere, showed no meaningful difference from placebo. The reason is that oxide barely dissolves in water at all, so the transporters cannot pick it up. Then there is magnesium threonate, which operates in a completely different category from every other form available today. A controlled trial gave 80 adults 1 gram of magnesium threonate daily versus a placebo for 3 full weeks. The results showed significant improvements in deep sleep, REM sleep, daytime energy, alertness, and overall mood across the group. The reason threonate works differently is because the L-threonate molecule acts as a specialized carrier inside your body. It helps magnesium cross the blood-brain barrier at dramatically higher rates than any other form currently available. Standard magnesium raises your tissue and serum levels, but is largely excluded from entering your central nervous system. Threonate gets in and directly raises magnesium levels inside the brain itself, which is where cortisol is regulated. If your primary goals are lowering cortisol, improving stress response, sharpening cognition, or getting deeper sleep, choose threonate. One important note is that the benefits of threonate did not fully emerge until around 2 to 3 weeks in. Patience is required with this particular form because it needs time to build up inside the central nervous system. Now, let us bring all of this together into a simple and practical approach that you can actually use. Deficiency is real, widespread, and deeply missed by every standard blood test your doctor will ever run on you. Even when you supplement correctly, those active transporters saturate quickly if you take everything in one large dose. Calcium, zinc, and other divalent minerals physically compete with magnesium for the same absorption channels in your gut. The colon pathway, activated by prebiotic fiber, is your greatest untapped tool for dramatically increasing your magnesium status. Start with magnesium glycinate or bisglycinate at a total of 300 to 400 milligrams per day. Split that into 2 separate doses, perhaps 200 milligrams in the morning and the remainder at night. Always take it right after a fiber-rich meal and keep it at least 2 hours away from calcium. If your focus is sleep quality, brain function, or stress reduction, consider adding magnesium threonate as your evening dose. Vitamin B6 is a critical cofactor that your cells require to actually use the magnesium once it is absorbed. Research shows that magnesium combined with B6 significantly outperforms magnesium alone for calming the central nervous system effectively. Keeping your vitamin D levels adequate matters deeply, because vitamin D directly affects how efficiently magnesium is transported. Taurine, which you can get naturally from quality red meat, helps retain magnesium inside your cells once it arrives. It slows down how quickly magnesium exits the cell and keeps your cellular levels elevated for much longer periods. When you combine the right form, the right dose, the right timing, and the right fiber, everything shifts. Your cortisol starts dropping because your brain finally has the mineral it has been quietly starved of for years. Your muscles stop holding tension around the clock because they now have what they need to genuinely relax. Your sleep deepens because the channels responsible for calming your nervous system are finally working the way they should. Your insulin sensitivity begins improving because magnesium plays a direct and critical role in how cells respond to insulin. This is not about adding another supplement to an already crowded routine and hoping something eventually changes for you. This is about understanding one of the most foundational minerals your body needs and finally giving it properly. Most people have no idea that chronic stress alone can drain your magnesium reserves faster than almost anything else. Every time your body releases cortisol in response to stress, it triggers a cascade that pulls magnesium from cells. That magnesium then gets excreted through your kidneys and leaves your body permanently unless you actively replace it daily. So the more stressed you are, the more magnesium you lose, and the harder it becomes to recover. This creates a vicious cycle that most people are completely trapped inside without even realizing what is happening. Low magnesium raises cortisol, high cortisol depletes magnesium further, and the spiral continues getting worse with every passing week. Breaking that cycle requires more than just taking a supplement, because the absorption problem must be solved simultaneously. You cannot outrun a broken absorption system by simply increasing your dose and expecting dramatically different results tomorrow. The biology does not work that way, and the research is very clear about exactly why that is. Think about the last time you slept deeply and woke up feeling completely restored and genuinely energized for the day. For most people reading this, that feeling has become something distant and almost impossible to remember or access. The reason is not that your body forgot how to sleep, but that it lacks the raw materials needed. Magnesium is directly involved in the regulation of GABA, which is the primary calming neurotransmitter in your entire brain. Without adequate magnesium, GABA cannot do its job properly, and your nervous system stays in a low-level alert state. That alert state prevents you from entering the deep, restorative stages of sleep that actually repair and rebuild you. You lie in bed feeling exhausted but somehow still wired, which is one of the most frustrating experiences imaginable. This is not a willpower problem or a mindset problem, and it cannot be solved by going to bed earlier. It is a mineral problem, and once you understand that, the solution becomes much clearer and far more achievable. Now let us talk about insulin resistance, because this connection is one that most people have never heard explained properly. Every cell in your body requires magnesium to properly respond to the insulin signal it receives from the pancreas. Without adequate intracellular magnesium, the insulin receptor on the cell surface becomes sluggish and unresponsive to normal insulin levels. The pancreas then has to produce more and more insulin just to get the same basic glucose response from cells. This is the beginning of insulin resistance, and it quietly progresses for years before any doctor ever catches it. A landmark review found that people with the lowest magnesium intake had significantly higher rates of type 2 diabetes overall. Correcting magnesium status improved insulin sensitivity in multiple controlled studies, particularly in people who were already showing early metabolic issues. This means that magnesium deficiency is not just making you tired and stressed, it is altering your entire metabolic trajectory. The inflammation connection is equally important, and it operates through some of the same pathways that affect cortisol and insulin. Magnesium acts as a natural inhibitor of several inflammatory signaling molecules, including a key pathway known as NF-kappa B. When magnesium is low, this inflammatory pathway becomes hyperactive and drives chronic low-grade inflammation throughout your entire body. That inflammation affects your joints, your cardiovascular system, your brain, your gut, and virtually every organ you have. It is the kind of inflammation that does not cause obvious pain, but silently accelerates aging at the cellular level. You feel it as brain fog, persistent fatigue, slow recovery after exercise, and a general sense that your body is off. Correcting magnesium absorption does not just address one symptom, but creates a cascade of improvements across multiple body systems simultaneously. The gut microbiome piece deserves even more attention, because most people dramatically underestimate how central it is to everything. Your gut bacteria do not just help you digest food. They actively regulate dozens of physiological processes throughout your entire body. The bacteria that produce butyrate are particularly important, and they are among the most sensitive to dietary fiber intake levels. A single week of eating a low-fiber diet measurably reduces butyrate-producing bacteria populations in your gut microbiome. A single course of antibiotics can reduce microbial diversity by 50%, and some of that diversity never fully returns. Chronic psychological stress also reshapes your microbiome in ways that specifically reduce the bacteria responsible for butyrate production. So if you have ever taken antibiotics, been through a stressful period, or eaten poorly for any stretch of time, your butyrate production is likely compromised right now. This is why two people with identical supplement routines can have completely different magnesium levels and completely different health outcomes. Rebuilding your microbiome takes time, and it requires consistent daily intake of the fermentable fibers that feed the right bacteria. It is not something that happens overnight, but the research shows meaningful improvements in butyrate levels within just a few weeks. Garlic and onion are probably the easiest starting point, because most people already cook with them regularly and in quantity. Adding a tablespoon of psyllium husk to water in the morning takes less than 30 seconds and delivers immediate benefit. Jerusalem artichoke is one of the most potent prebiotic foods available, but it can cause bloating if introduced too quickly. Start slowly with any new prebiotic food and increase gradually over 2 to 3 weeks to avoid digestive discomfort. Your gut bacteria need time to adjust, and the transition period is worth pushing through for the long-term benefit. Now consider the broader picture of what adequate magnesium actually means for your quality of life on a daily basis. It means waking up without that crushing heaviness that makes you want to immediately go back to sleep every morning. It means your shoulders and neck are not locked in tension before you have even had your first cup of coffee. It means your mind is clearer, your mood is more stable, and small stressors do not send you into overwhelm. It means your body is recovering from exercise properly instead of staying sore and inflamed for 3 or 4 days. It means your heart rhythm is steady and regular because magnesium is deeply involved in cardiac electrical conduction as well. It means your blood pressure is moving in the right direction because magnesium helps relax the smooth muscle in vessel walls. All of these things are connected, and all of them trace back to one mineral that your body is almost certainly not getting enough of right now. The research on this is not new or experimental, and it has been accumulating for several decades across thousands of studies. What is new is the understanding of the colonic absorption pathway and how powerfully it can be activated through diet. What is new is the emergence of magnesium threonate and its remarkable ability to specifically raise levels inside the brain. What is new is the growing recognition that standard testing completely misses the problem in the vast majority of cases. You now have information that most people will never receive from their doctors or read in any mainstream health publication. The question is, what you are going to do with it, and how quickly you are willing to apply it. Start today by separating your magnesium from your calcium and taking it in 2 smaller split doses instead of 1. Add a source of prebiotic fiber to the meal you take your magnesium with, and be consistent about it every day. Choose glycinate or bisglycinate as your primary form, and consider adding threonate in the evening if sleep or stress is your main concern. Support absorption with adequate vitamin D, include B6 in your routine, and consider taurine if you want to maximize intracellular retention. Give it 3 full weeks before you judge the results, because some of these mechanisms take time to fully express. The changes that come from truly correcting your magnesium status are not subtle, and they are not temporary either. They are deep, systemic, and lasting, because you are finally addressing something that has been limiting your body for a very long time. Your body has been waiting for this, and it already knows exactly what to do once it finally has enough.